in Mesechta Megillah. Just share the actual Gemara on the screen. Here we go. Gemara Mesechta Megillah Daf Chaf Vav Amud Beis 26b. We're near the end of the page. We're having many statements from the different Amirayim regarding what a shul can be repurposed as, what a bima, the wood which you read the Sefer Torah on, could be repurposed as. Now we're going to get into the haroiches, the curtain of the Aron Kodesh, what that can be repurposed as, and then we're going to get even into an Aron Kodesh itself, a holy ark, what that can be repurposed as whenever you, for some reason, don't use an Aron Kodesh anymore, or for whatever reason, maybe the Aron Kodesh fell apart, etc. So says the Gemara, we've already had 1, 2, 3 statements of Rava. Now we're up to statement number 4. V'amar Rava. Hi tevusa the irfat, a Aron Kodesh, a holy ark that fell apart, especially in the olden days, where many times shuls were outdoors. It wasn't indoor. There was no roof to the shul. Talking about in the times in Bavel when the Jews were living in a good weather place, but the Aron Kodesh can be outside. So if the Aron Kodesh fell apart, the irpat me'av de teva zetrasi, you're allowed to use the materials and construct a smaller Aron Kodesh out of it, because you are using the materials of the holy ark for a holy object, also for a holy purpose, for using it for another Aron Kodesh. Kursaya, however, it is not allowed, Asir, it is not allowed to make a bima, the wooden table where you put the Sefer Torah on when you read it. That is forbidden, because the holiness of an Aron Kodesh, of a holy ark, is greater than the holiness of the bima, because a bima is only occasionally, sometimes, the Sefer Torah is on there. Whenever you read the Torah, when you take the Torah out, and maybe when you're fixing the Sefer Torah, the Aron Kodesh has a Torah constantly inside. And that's there makes it on a standard level higher in holiness. And therefore, you can not demote the holiness of the object, and you cannot take the wood of a Aron Kodesh, even an old Aron Kodesh, and to now use it as a bima. It's very unique to know that the Sefer Torah that the Rebbe had, the very, very special Sefer Torah, very small Sefer Torah, was written by 2 holy brothers who were imprisoned, the Shapiro brothers, the grandchildren of Pinchas Karatzer, and they had a Jewish publishing house in Russia. It was Ukraine, but in Russia under the Tsar, and they were arrested on trumped up charges, and they were beaten, tortured, and they managed to write a Sefer Torah in prison. And that's the Sefer Torah that the Rebbe that's currently in the Rebbe's that the Rebbe would use, it's currently in the Rebbe's room, a very small white Sefer Torah. And the Chaim, the handles of the Sefer Torah, they came from another very big tzaddik who lived at that time period, and one of his Hasidim, one of his students, bought this tzaddik silver Chaim, silver handles for the Sefer Torah, and the wooden ones were sitting around, and they asked him, what should we do with it? And he says, an opportunity will come up, you'll see they'll come to good use. And later on, when the Shapiro brothers were in prison and they managed to write a Sefer Torah in prison, they smuggled in parchments piece by piece, and then they took they needed Chaim, the wooden handles for the Sefer Torah. And so it was asked by this tzaddik, can we use these wooden Chaim? And he said, yes. He said, but you're a big tzaddik. How could these 2 brothers use it? And he told them, another very great tzaddik will use it in the future, and you could give it to these two brothers. And they smuggled them in, and they had them in prison. And later on, this Sefer Torah with those Atzei Chaim is the Sefer Torah that eventually came to the Rebbe. So we see that things can be repurposed only for something which is on equal or greater holiness, but you cannot demote an object from one level of holiness to a lower level of holiness. Next, V'amar Rava, and Rava says, Hi Prisa de Bala, if you had a curtain in front of the Holy Ark, and actually just closed previously the picture of the Aron Kodesh, but the curtain in front of a Holy Ark, de Bala, and it became worn out over years, over many years of use. Lemevde prisa lesifri shari. You are allowed to use it to make a wrapping cloth, a mantle for a Sefer Torah. As we learned previously, there are from time to time, they take the kaparichas, a curtain in front of the Aron Kodesh. Sometimes there's a curtain inside the Aron Kodesh, the same one as well. And they wrap the Torah in it. Sometimes they use it to put on the bima to use as a covering for the bima when you're reading the Torah. So since it's anyways from time to time used directly to support or to wrap or protect the Sefer Torah, so you're allowed to take the paroiches, the curtain of the Aron Kodesh, and to use it and to repurpose it and to sew it and to make it into a mantle for a Sefer Torah, because you're not demoting it, you're not lowering the level of Kedusha of holiness, rather you're raising the level of Kedusha, the level of holiness. And on the contrary, beforehand it was only occasionally used for a Sefer Torah. And now it's going to be used for a Sefer Torah on an ongoing basis, on a permanent basis, if it is a mantle for the Sefer Torah. However, l'chumashin aser, to make a wrapping cloth. Shalom Aleichem Reb Moshe, thank you for joining. To make a wrapping cloth, a mantle, to go around a chumash. Now, not just a printed chumash like you can find on most shelves nowadays, but even a chumash, which is written on parchment, but it's only one book of the Torah, so only Bereshis or Shemais or Vayikra, Midbar or Devarim. It does not have the same level of sanctity as a Sefer Torah, which is an entire 5 books of the Chumash together, of the Torah together. Back then, it was the custom was, before the days of the printing press, that they would write every Sefer Torah separately. So you cannot repurpose a paroiches, a curtain of a Aron Kodesh, to use as a mantle, as a wrapping for a Chumash, one single handwritten book of the Torah, because since in the past the paroiches is used occasionally to cover or be or to be the layer underneath the Sefer Torah directly, therefore you cannot use it for a wrapping of a Chumash, even if it's going to be on a permanent basis, because that is lowering down the level of Kedusha, lowering down the level of holiness. Gemara continues. V'amar Rava, next statement of Rava. Hani zvili de chumash. If someone has a case for one of the 5 books of the Torah, so let's say they have a Chumash Bereshis written on parchment, and they have a leather case. I have a leather case for my Megillah, which at home, so that would be considered to be in the same category. It's a book of Tanakh, and you have a leather case. Or the Kimtiri, the Sifri. Kimtiri is a wooden case, sort of like almost a suitcase or a carrying case. Targum Yonason Ben Uziel talks about how there were captives who were tied up in ropes, and he uses the word kimtarin. So if you have one book of the Torah, which is either in a leather case or a wooden case, tashmish kedusha ninhu vinignazin. These cases are considered to be a item of sanctity. They're supporting an item which has Hashem's name written on it, and therefore you can't just take your old Megillah case, and you can't just take the cases or wooden case so you had a Sefer Torah or one Chumash, and to throw it out, because these are Tashmish Kedusha, objects which are used for holiness and sanctity, not just objects which are used for a mitzvah. Mar asked Pshita, didn't we sort of just say this type of thing over and over in many different ways? Obviously, what are you telling us novel and unique? And the Gemara says, Mao de Tema, it's coming to tell you, because you might have thought to say, Dehani lav lekavod avidan, a carrying case for a Sefer Torah, a Megillah, is not there to beautify the Megillah, to beautify the Sefer Torah. Rather, it's there to protect it. Right? If it shouldn't get dirty, it's there more for protection than it is for beauty. Kamash Malan, it comes to tell you that if it's a type of carrying case, which is also a beautiful, let's say it's set aside. Yossi, Echata.
Baruch Hashem, Rabbi, how are you?
Baruch Hashem. I talk about beautiful, wonderful, and Torah, and all three of them show up at one time.
Yossi, that's great, yes.
Yeah, and we spoke about the word we used here in the Gemara was kamteri. And so the Targum Yonas ben Azil says those were type of devices they used to restrain prisoners. So Hashem should help all the prisoners, and all the hostages should be free very, very soon. And Hashem should only have, every single Jew, wherever they are, should only be very good in a physical and a spiritual way. So the Gemara says, you might think to say that since this case is there for protection of the Sefer Torah, of the Chumash, of the Megillah, but it's not there to beautify it like a mantle of a Sefer Torah, Hamash Malan comes to teach you that if it's a case made specifically for it, it also has an element of kavod, an element of honor, beautifying the mitzvah, and therefore it has the same status as the mantle on the cover of the Sefer Torah, and therefore you cannot throw it out. It has to be put into geniza, has to be put aside into permanent storage. The difference in halacha would be if, let's say, you have in Crown Heights, you have several Sefer Torah in 770. We just mentioned the Rebbe's Torah, which is very historic, but there's several other very historic and very special Torahs in 770, which many of them have beautiful histories, come from Tunisia, many, many different stories which are involved with these Sefer Torah. And they're not taken out the entire year, and they're only taken out by Hakafas once a year, Shemin Atzeres and Simchas Torah, when you come dancing with the Torah. Some of the Torahs are very old, very delicate, and if they'll be handled in 770, which is, during Hakafas, the 770 has to take several times its design capacity. And it's, it's called the washing machine, where a person could find themselves in one place in 1 second, the other place in the other second, and everyone is very hot. So in order that the Sefer Torah should be protected, they have very a thick type of plastic wrap, saran wrap almost, around many of the Sefer Torah. So those have a level of kedusha, of holiness. So based on this Gemara that we're learning over here, we see that if the cover of the Sefer Torah also beautifies the Torah, then it has a level of kedusha, of sanctity and of holiness. However, if it's only there to protect it, but it's not making it beautiful, doesn't make it look nice, then it's not considered to be tashmish kedusha. It's not an object which is used for a mitzvah, and therefore you don't have to keep it. You don't have to put it into Geniza. And since there's from time to time they have to redo the cover, so that they don't have to put it into Shemus, you don't have to put it into Geniza. But since it was used for a Sefer Torah, they scarred it inside of another bag, not directly. The Or Zarua says over there that you have sometimes, in some places, a Aron Kodesh, which was built just as a design for a shul. It wasn't like to make the shul look beautiful. It wasn't designed to actually hold a Sefer Torah. Like you have along the wall, you have places where you have the Sefer Torah. So these were not actually, they're not used on an ongoing basis. So such a thing, from our Gemara, we see that if something is used to make for kavod, honor of a Sefer Torah, it is considered to be, already has a sanctity of a Sefer Torah. A safe, right? Many shuls have a safe where the Aron Kodesh, the Aron Kodesh is a beautiful ark, and inside of that you have a safe with a Sefer Torah inside. A safe is only meant for protection. A safe is not meant for beauty. That's why the safe is covered the entire time. Many shuls, you have to go in and you have to, and somebody before davening, the gabbai goes and does a combination or a key or a combination and the key in order to open up the safe before. So the safe is not there to beautify the object at all. The safe is there only to protect the Sefer Torah. By night, the most valuable thing in the shul is a Sefer Torah. Many of these safes are fireproof, so if something happens in the shul, God forbid, a fire, everything could be safe. I did bring up here a very sad event. It took place this year, right before Pesach. One of the boys in the yeshiva here davens in the shul regularly, but you can see over here, not sure if it's going to load. My connection is, I'm not sure, but here is in Pomona.
Everyone's attention.
There's a shul, and there's a beautiful Chabad shul. And unfortunately, had a big fire, electrical fire one night. Entire shul burned to the ground. It had 3 Sefer Torah inside. And this was done, I think, Challah Moed Pesach. I'm not sure what day it was. April 21st. So just about 3 weeks ago. They had a levaya, a funeral, you could say, for the 3 Sefer Torah that got burned in the shul. I think they had a safe, but just from the heat itself caused it. And it was a very large crowd from
when a
community
person
came.
dies, he's gonna move. Will this Heilige Torah survive? How can this Heilige Torah be eternal?
And you see, so when the Sefer Torah burns, God forbid, it's a very serious thing. And on the spot already, they in the place where the shul burned, they made a brand new, started writing a brand new Sefer Torah on the spot. Well, you see over there,
Rabbi Meisels.
Right, over here, these are the 3 Sefer Torah.
The way it was, how the Maria became the place where the Beis Hamikdash was built.
Yeah, we should never have to go to such an event. So the halacha is that a safe of a Sefer Torah does not have kedusha, does not have holiness. It is only there for shmira, for protection. It is not there for kavod, to honor the Sefer Torah per se. It's not. They're not designed. Most of them, at least, are not designed aesthetically, unless you have a custom-made safe. Maybe that will be considered to be a Sefer Torah. If you made the door of the safe to be a beautiful Aron Kodesh. And therefore, let's say the shul moves or they expand, that safe could be repurposed for other objects. Does not have any kedusha, any holiness. Continues the Gemara. Ahu be'knishta, there was a certain shul of the Jews in Rome. Now, it sounds sort of like an oxymoron, Rome were the biggest anti-Semites of the day. They were the ones who destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. They were the ones who killed millions of Jews, starved millions of others, enslaved millions of others. However, very soon, Rome itself became a very thriving Jewish community, very thriving place. And even Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, the famous Reb Shimon Bar Yochai of Lag BaOmer, who was persecuted by the Romans, and he had to escape, and he hid in a cave for 14 years in the cave to escape from the Romans. Later on, when the Roman emperor died and a new Roman emperor came, he himself would be very often in Rome to advocate for the Jewish people, to protect them. And Reb Shimon Bar Yochai was the one who was most successful of his time to be able to abolish or any decrees and any plots against the Jewish people in Rome. And today, I'm not sure exactly where the ancient shul is. Rashi says the Jewish people built their own shul, but the Rashba says actually that the Romans built this shul for the Jews, believe it or not. Today, you go to Rome, you'll see beautiful, beautiful shuls built in Moorish style, ostentatious shuls. They invested much, much in the shul, but these are not the shuls from the times of the Gemara. So there's certain shul in Rome for the Roman Jews. They have a pasich lahu idroina. It opened out into a room where there was someone, a corpse, a body, which was not alive, and therefore would bring tuma, impurity, to the entire shul. Now you're in the shul, and kohanim want to go into the shul and daven. And we know a kohen cannot go into a place a room where there is a dead person, a dead body, because that brings impurity, brings unholiness to them. And so the kohanim wanted to go to the shul to daven, and they couldn't. Asu amr Rava, they went and they told Rava, what should we do? I mean, there was obviously a very big dilemma. Rava is all the way in Babylonia, very far away. And they sent a message to him, what can we do about this? Obviously, it seems like they weren't able to get themselves a new shul. Perhaps that's all they were allowed to daven. Amar lahu, Rava told them, Gelu tevusa v'isvua. Here's what you should do. And I brought a few examples, we're going to see soon, of such a type of setup. Take a very large Aron Kodesh, which is not being used anymore. V'isvua, and put it down by the entrance to the next room, the room where the person the dead body is. And that will stop any impurity, any tumah from entering that room. And then a kohen could daven in the shul. A kohen cannot be in a place where there is a dead body. You have a very large utensil. Very large means it's over 40 sa. So most, let's say, tall dressers would fit into that category. An Aron Kodesh, which is a large one, would fit into that category. Be able to hold about 300 gallons inside if it was liquid measurement. And if you have a wooden large object of that size, that's considered to be like a stationary object. Now, just like any stationary object cannot become tummy, cannot become impure. Let's say a mountain, a tree. If a dead person touches a tree, and later on, obviously he's not, when they're not there anymore, a kohen could touch a tree, could be under the tree. Anything attached to the ground in a strong way, I mean, fastened to the ground, does not have tumah, cannot become impure. If you have a very large container, vessel, wood, which is heavy, and it's over 40 sa, It's over 300 gallons of volume that you could hold inside. That cannot become tamei, because since it's so large, it's considered to be stationary. It's considered to be able to stay in its place, and therefore it does not become tamei at all. And it could also be considered to be like a wall, and therefore, and there's a hollow space inside. So if you take this big Aron Kodesh, an old Aron Kodesh, a holy ark, the Aron Kodesh, where you held the Sefer Torah, and you put it by the doorway, it will stop the tumah. It's considered to be a large stationary item, which cannot become impure itself, and so Kohen can touch it without becoming impure, and it stops the hollow space in between of the inside space, which is a tefach, 4 inches. That you could say is a place where any tumah would come to stop, and you don't move the object. And even if occasionally the object is moved, but it's not a common occurrence, and therefore the Aron Kodesh would be able to be placed inside the doorway, and therefore the Kohanim can now go into the shul. Now, the times of the Aron Kodesh, there are times the Aron Kodesh is moved. For example, we learned Mesechta Tainis about many different fast days where they would take the Aron Kodesh out into the street. However, all these things were exceptions to the rule. If it's generally made to be a large item, it's not movable, it's considered to be stationary to the ground and does not become tamei, impure. Before we conclude, we'll pause the Gemara here. In Lubavitch and in Haditch. So this is Lubavitch, the town of Lubavitch in Russia. You have the old cemeteries. That was the oil that was built in Lubavitch in 1989 by Rebbe Nachshon. There's a shliach in Russia, in Moscow, who started dedicating himself and really dedicating in a very strong way to revitalizing the town of Lubavitch, renovating it, fixing it, making it a place where visitors could be welcome to visit the Ohelim, in the place of the Rebbeim. And so this is, for example, this is taking care of the grounds, and all these rocks over here are actually, I think, pieces of old matzibis, pieces of old monuments that were found desecrated when the Nazis destroyed the cemetery, and they're put over here. And the entrance to the walkway. I remember going to Lubavitch; everything was muddy. It's called the Blut of Lubavitch, the mud of Lubavitch. You walk down the street, and there's ducks floating in puddles on the street. And nowadays, Baruch Hashem, he made a special walkway for Kohanim, elevated in the air. And Kohanim will be able to go to the Ohel of the Rebbes. This is what they used to be, a projected place. That blue cage was a projected place where there's 4 Chabad Rebbetzins buried over there, actually 3 inside over there. And with all the resources and digging, and they found many kvarim. This is a special kever of Alter Rebbe's teacher when Alter Rebbe was a child. And this is what it used to be. Cows walking right by the oil of the Rebbeim in the town of Lubavitch. And they're fixing up much of the work. Here they found many different kvarim. They found daughters, families, children of the Rebbeim, Alter Rebbe's teachers, students of the Magid. And wherever they dug a few inches in the ground, and they found the matzeva that fell over and was covered by the earth, and they put it up in its place on a foundation. You see the tremendous amount of work being done. So this building over here is now the oil in Lubavitch currently. The oil in Lubavitch always traditionally had a shul next to it, a shul attached to the oil. The oil is where the Rebbe Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Marash, his resting place, are buried there. And there was a shul attached to it where there would be minyanim, they would daven there. And all the Rebbeim always had a shul connected to their oil. The Rashbat's teacher, the Frierdiker Rebbe, tremendous gaon and a tremendous chassid. Every Erev, he would spend the entire Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur by himself in the shul next to the oil of the Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Marash. He was a very tremendous Jew. There is a certain story the Frierdiker Rebbe writes about him where he was in Mezhebush by the Baal Shem Tov's oil, and he was able to see the Baal Shem Tov B'Haketz while awake. A special mission that was given to him by the Tzemach Tzedek. Himself a very holy Jew, and so he would stop by Erev Yom Kippur, the Rebbe Marash, by the Rebbe Rashab, and he would earlier I think the Rebbe Marash and the Rebbetzin Rivka, the Rebbe Marash's Rebbetzin, and they would give him like special messages, certain messages to give over to the Rebbeim, to the Oihel. So there was always a shul connected to the Oihelim. Now in Lubavitch, the Ohel was covered when it was built in the 90s. There was no shul connected to it. What they have done recently, if you can see from here, the place of the Ohel, they uncovered. They wanted that Kohanim should be able to come to the Ohel. And the whole area is a cemetery. And you don't know where people are buried here. Because, again, the whole cemetery was destroyed by the communists, by the Nazis, by both. Communists destroyed the Ohel the first time. The Nazis destroyed all the gravestones. And in order to find it, it was miraculous. Many things how they found where everything was. And so they wanted to be able to, Kohanim should be able to come to the Ohel, but there's also a shul. So here is this is about 5 years ago, this is Gabriel Gordon, is where they found the foundations of the original shul in Lubavitch, right next to where the Ohel was. They found the foundations of the original shul, and they went ahead and they built a new shul on that spot. So now Kohanim could go into that shul. They made a walkway Kohanim could get there, and the area of the Ohel itself, where the Kvarim are, the graves are, that they uncovered. You can see from the ear here they uncovered it. So now Kohanim, sort of like the Ohel we have, are able to go into. Let's go to some further pictures. Kohanim are now able to enter the Ohel of the Rebbeim in Lubavitch. Remember that blue cage we said was the Ohel, the resting place of the 3 of the Chabad Rebbetzins. Later on, with many diggings, they found out that was in a different spot a little bit. And they, if you look from the air, that other red house over there, they built an Ohel for another place for the Chabad Rebbetzins who are buried there. This is called 770 Beis Chabad. It's still during communism. A house was bought in Lubavitch for the Rebbe, and that's the house which was bought, and now it became a place we could write upon. And Lubavitch, of course, itself, that's Ohel in Lubavitch. This is a second cemetery, or it's Oilim, second older cemetery, and that's not the Rebbe's teacher. And to go through 1 or 2 more things. So now this is a shul in Lubavitch. The foyer, and you walk in, you see an Aron Kodesh, and here's a shul, but connected to the Ohel in Lubavitch, the way it always was. So now they rebuilt the shul. My brother-in-law, Levi Munshine, he brings a group there for shlichus. He's in Smolensk, and they bring a group there for shlichus on Motzei Shabbos during COVID from Smolensk. All people don't usually come to shlichus, but many people from his area, they know they need anything, they travel to Lubavitch. So this is a shul in Lubavitch, in the cemetery, connected to the Ohel. And there's a door going to the Ohel. Here you could learn, you could write upon. There's some people davening in the shul. I guess it's heated. Lubavitch has not yet been hooked up to the, the gas grid. So they have to heat up everything manually. And here is, from the shul, they built a special Ohel to going to Lubavitch. They did realize, when I was there years ago, these are the original matzevos, original monuments of the Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Maharash that was found there. However, the Nazis knocked it down, and when they came back to Lubavitch in the 60s, someone put up a small gate around it with great danger. And however, someone must have been during the Holocaust or after the Holocaust put up the matzevos. They found the 2 matzevos up, but they were in the wrong order. So the Tzemach Tzedek is on the right, and the Rebbe Marash is on the left. And these 2 are put up by must have been a chassid who was probably in great danger at that time, just put up a 2 matzevos that he found on the ground, in Lubavitch, the Nazis killed close to 1,000 Jews. And so it was put up not in the right direction. And so they would put up a new matzeva in a different place. But now, having dug a little bit and realized where exactly the shul and the oil was, they made it at the two different sides. You can't walk through. Now, as you're able to walk right up to here. It seems like the actual burial spot is right in this area. So that's in Lubavitch, right? That's the old cemetery of Lubavitch. There's old and old. Baruch Hashem Lubavitch, they're rebuilding the exact shul. This is where the original Tamchei Turim Yeshiva was. The Rebbe at Rashab would hold say Mamarim in this place. Now they're rebuilding the building, same specifications, same way. Hadich, the Alter Rebbe's oil is the same, right? I mean, this hill is tremendously high. Well, let's go a little bit. Let's see, let's go into here. Here's the oil of the Alter Rebbe. It was rebuilt. Again, the Nazis destroyed it. They rebuilt very, very fancy, very beautifully. And you'll see right over here. Sorry. This is the oil of the Alter Rebbe. Right in here. The oil of the Alter Rebbe. People go there. It's tremendous pachad, tremendous fear. Speaking to many people which have been there, I've been there, and you can feel tremendous pachad. The Rebbe spoke about it also. I bring in, says the oil of the Rebbe, of the Friedrich Rebbe, brings you simcha, the one in New York, but the oil of the Alter Rebbe is known to bring pachad. This is the oil of the Alter Rebbe. 24-hour candle. Now, connected to the oil of the Alter Rebbe, see right over here is a shul. Here's a shul. There's always a shul connected to the oil of the Alter Rebbe. Kohanim can't walk in here because it's a place where it's the middle of a big cemetery. Kohanim are not able to walk into this, I think, unless they did something recently that Kohanim could walk in. But you're able to walk into the shul. I mean, the shul in times of the 1800s was not as beautiful as it is today. There's a very well-known story what happened during the Holocaust, where the Jews of Hadich escaped. Many of the Jews of Hadich, among the mainly Chassidim, they ran away into the oil of the Alter Rebbe. And there was one very elder Chassid, and they were all hiding in the shul, and the Nazis surrounded them overnight. And they said, come out with your hands up, or if you don't come out by daybreak, we're going to kill you all inside over here. And there was so a certain very elder Chassid. There were many Jews inside, and they were petrified. And a certain elder Chassid, known to be a little of a parush, was davening by the oil of the Alter Rebbe. There's a bima right over here. And he had a vision of the Alter Rebbe, and the Alter Rebbe told him, pick up the bima, pick up the stender, look underneath. And he picked up the stender, and they saw there was actually a tunnel there. And the Jews there managed to escape. They made it out. They met a partisan group. They managed to escape. This Chassid, the elder Chassid, stayed inside and to close up the hole afterwards. And the Nazis came in, they beat him and they killed him. And later on, his son came back and buried him. And Baruch Hashem, all those Jews managed to survive the war. So the Nazis destroyed the oil of the Alter Rebbe. This is rebuilt. But it's a common thing that next to a oil, a matzeva of a tzaddik, you have a shul connected to it, going back all the way to the times of David HaMelech. It says they put a yeshiva by his grave, a place to sit and learn Torah. Because a tzaddik should know a place to sit and learn Torah. So this we're learning in the Gemara, that there was a place where there was a dead body, someone who was not living, right next to a shul, and the Kohanim wanted to go to shul and couldn't. We see it's not so uncommon. Now, again, obviously, somebody on the level of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, there's a different question. Halachically, if Kohen's allowed to, since they're a Nasi, they're allowed to become part of them. But such an idea is there, and so Rabbi Yehuda Nasi would be saying would be in the doorway between that where that dead body, that person was, and the shul, you should put a very large Aron Kodesh. So let's say a large Aron Kodesh, something like this, which is, this will definitely be the size of 40 saw, carrying 300 gallons. Definitely a person could fit inside, so definitely will be that size. And once you put it there, that no longer, that will stop the tumah from entering from one room to the other. Right. We have just a few more minutes. We will jump into Shulchan Aruch. Today let's go to Halacha Vav. We'll go back to Halacha Gimel tomorrow, Mr. Hashem. We'll go straight to Halacha Vav. We're talking about the preparations for Shabbos. Haminag, B'chol Yisrael. The minhag among the Jewish people, lefes b'batayim lachamim, the covet Shabbos, to bake challah for Shabbos. So for one reason was because many Jews in those days, it wasn't so simple to buy bread that was pas Yisrael, baked by a Jewish person. So they would bake their own bread on Shabbos. But during the week, many Jews would be eating pas palter. Baruch Hashem, only after we came to America, to Eretz Yisrael, more in modern times where it's easy to have large commercial bakeries, as pas Yisrael became much more widespread for people eating all items pas Yisrael. But in Russia, it wasn't always possible. Other hand, in Russia, there were no additives. The bread was flour and water. So many people, the entire week, would be eating pas palter, the bread of a bakery, who was not Jewish. But Shabbos is a holy day, and they would only eat pas Yisrael on that day. So that is one reason to bake challah for Shabbos. Even if a person who eats pas Yisrael an entire week, the whole week long, and so he goes to a Jewish bakery and buys kosher bread baked by a Jew, in honor of Shabbos, you should bake challah at home. In order that the woman in the house could do the mitzvah of taking a piece of challah and separating it. Adam Arishan niver b'erev Shabbos. This is the reason brought in Shulchan Aruch. Adam Arishan, Adam, the first man, he was created on Friday. He was the challah of the world. What that means is like this. You have a large dough, and you take a small piece of challah and separate it to give it as a gift to the kohen. The kohen should have the first bread that comes from there. Adam Rishon, he had the entire world created, and Hashem took out a piece of challah, small piece of challah Hashem took, and that piece of challah was Adam Rishon, Adam the first man. And he would be the holy consecrated one, the special one of creation. And Hashem was so proud of his Adam Rishon until Va'isha bechate ibadatoi, and Adam Rishon sinned through it's called the sin of his wife, of when Chava gave to her husband Adam to eat from the tree of knowledge on Friday when she wasn't supposed to. And therefore the woman has a special schus and merit to fix up the mistake of Chava. And therefore it's a special mitzvah for the woman to bake challah at home and to separate challah. Just like Hashem separated Adam as challah from the world, so too she separates challah from her dough for Hashem. You make 3 different size breads, 3 challahs, 1 large, 1 small, and 1 medium. The medium one is for the night meal, where it's already late. You only need to eat for 1 meal. And you have to have 2 challahs, but you only have to eat 1. 2 challahs for lechem mishnah. V'agadol l'sudas hayom, and the large one is for the daytime meal, when it's a full meal and everyone eats. And that you're honoring the day of Shabbos is more important to honor the daytime more than the nighttime. So the shlishis, and the third challah is for the third meal of Shabbos. We do not have to have lechem mishnah. You don't have to have two breads, just one challah, and that the small one is for the third meal to show that the main meal is the meal of the Shabbos day meal. The Medrash writes, and the Rizal brings us down. It says by Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, it says, Vayar Reishis Loi. Hashem saw the Reishis. The first one is Moshe Rabbeinu. The greatest Navi was Moshe. Teruma, the gifts to the Kohen are called the Reishis. As Reishis Arisha when by Challah, the mitzvah of Challah says, take the first of your breads and give it to the Kohen as a gift. So Moshe Rabbeinu is called Reishis, the beginning. Challah is the beginning, called Reishis as well in the Torah. The Moshe Rabbeinu of the entire time frame of creation of 6,000 years, which Hashem creates the world, Moshe Rabbeinu was the Challah. Why? It says because the Shiur, the size of Challah, is 1 out of 50, 1/50th, or 2 out of 100. So if you have 100 pounds of dough, 2 of those pounds should be given challah to the kohen. Now, nowadays we don't actually give the challah to the kohen because 2 reasons. First of all, it's probably tamei, impure, and cannot eat challah tameah. Second of all, we don't have definite knowledge who is the kohen today. So we don't give the challah to the kohen. You can take a piece. It doesn't have to be that size. You don't have to take that amount as long as it's larger than a kezayis, greater than an olive, and we set it aside. So the world was created for 6,000 years. So we need someone with a little math head. If you take 1/50th of 6,000, how much do you get? How many years? You get 120. 120 is 1/50th of 6,000. Moshe Rabbeinu lived to be 120 years. So Moshe Rabbeinu, he is a challah of creation. And we see that from the fact that it says Reishis, the beginning, by both. Reishis over here and Reishis over there. The mitzvah of challah itself only applies to challah, which is baked with flour and water, but if it's baked with and only one of the 5 grains. If it's not baked with one of the 5 grains, it does not need challah to be taken off. If you're making a cake, a honey cake, many people have accustomed to take challah from there as well. But like a pancake mix, something which is very soft, you don't have to take challah from that. Many people have a custom, we'll learn this soon, to make 12 challahs for Shabbos, because similar to the Beis Hamikdash, you had 12 challahs called lechem apanim, which were switched out every single Shabbos, and many people do it all the way till today. And there's a well-known story of the Arizal about it. And many people also have a custom that by every single time they're baking the challah, they say the Kavod Shabbos Kodesh. We're doing this in honor of Shabbos Kodesh, in honor of Shabbos Kodesh, because they want to bring the schus of Shabbos, the merit of Shabbos, into every single thing they're doing. And we'll learn more about that in halachas tomorrow. So with this, we will pause today.